out there in the ICT community? Anthony Romeo here from WiseUP and Wise Components live at 2024 Winter BICSI Conference. I keep saying 2024 and it's like the future, right?
Right.
The future.
Right.
So here I am with my good friend Chuck Bowser. Let's talk cabling, and also an instructor for one of the leading manufacturers in the ICT infrastructure world. Thank you for coming on to my show once again. I'd love to be a guest on your show. It's always a pleasure. The BICSI community is almost in full blossom, I see, and it's great to be in person. As we mentioned before, this is our first encounter in person.
In person, I know.
Right?
I know.
So it's terrific to be out here in warm Florida. No.
Define warm, man.
It's warmer than New York.
Yeah, okay. So it's warm then.
I'm not going swimming today, but it's all good. So, Chuck, I can't tell you enough, but thank you so much, because even though WiseUP is doing the same thing you're doing, we're not. We have different aspects of our show, and I think that you touch great aspects on codes and standards. You talk about different ways to skin that cat in the industry, and you have great guests on your show. I mean, fantastic people that are in the industry. That being said, what inspired you to start this whole following on Let's Talk Cabling, this podcast?
Psychosis.
That's a good one.
I was at the BICSI Winter Conference in Tampa in 2020, right before COVID.
Yeah.
And I was in one of the committee meetings. I'm not a member, you consider as an observer. And they got up and they talked about the aging out.
Right.
And so I got to thinking, what can I do to help this? And I already have a photography, videography kind of background on top of my cabling background.
Right.
So it was just a natural fit. So I just started doing it, and I didn't, I do it because I want to educate, encourage, and enrich the lives of the people in the ICT industry. Because our industry is not good at paying it forward, right? And as people can attest, and walking around here this week, I can't, it's humbling to me as a content creator. I don't do it for money. Right. Thank God. Thank God.
You'd be starving.
I'd be starving. I'd be a starving artist. But I can't tell you how many people came up to me and said, Chuck, I listened to your podcast. You inspired me to do this, or I learned that from your podcast and stuff. That's where I get my payment. Right. I'm making an impact in their lives, and it's truly humbling, because when you sit there and you're recording, you probably relate to this. When you're sitting and recording, you don't really think about the other person. You're just trying to get through what your goal is for that episode.
Right.
But when you sit back and you think about the amount of people who spend their time listening to you, it's truly humbling.
I have to say, yesterday at the show, we were walking around and I noticed a gentleman came up to you and he was like, oh my God, Chuck Bowser, Let's Talk Cabling. And I'm not blowing smoke here, folks. This is a real encounter. Somebody grabbed Chuck and said, I listen to your show every Friday, and Chuck corrected him, it's Thursday night. He goes, I know, but I watched the recording version, because he said, but Chuck, it's 6 o'clock and I'm just driving my truck.
I'm driving my truck at 6 o'clock, I can't watch a video because
I can't watch a video. So the guy actually listened to you. He's like, okay, I'm not going to crash my truck. Right. I'm going to watch the video on Friday instead of Thursday and kick my feet up and learn something. And that's what he said. So that's got to be really inspiring to you.
It is, and that was one of 100 people over the last 3 days. And like I said, I'm not a fame-seeking person.
Right.
I'm usually the guy who's like sitting in the back of the room, like we are right now.
Right.
I'm sitting in the back of the room and stuff. But my passion is to inspire people. So I'm actually, you get me outside of this environment, I'm an introvert, not an extrovert.
Working on the farm.
Yeah, well, there's a reason I live on the farm.
Yeah,
right. And it's truly humbling. And that's why I make sure when people come up and they say, Chuck, do this and do this, I try to make sure I thank them for spending time. They could be doing that. They could be spending time with, their kids or doing a hobby or whatever, but yet they choose to spend that time with me. And it is truly humbling.
So I got to ask you a question, because the other day, it was new to me, and I don't hold any credentials. I've been in the industry long enough, I should, so shame on me. But
I do study groups.
I got to sign up. I might have a spare minute or two in my schedule.
Right.
But you were talking the other day, I forget who the gentleman was, but it was talking about some type of defect in the cable, AOM, right? It was like some kind of fluid that was coming out.
Oh, you're talking about past video.
Yes.
Okay, yes.
And I was just like blown away
I
by that.
I thought you meant here at the show.
No.
Well, see, that's a perfect example. Because see, people look at me and they call me a subject matter expert.
Right.
But yet I run in circles with people like Chuck Wilson, Phil Klingsmith, Lee Renfro. Those people know way more stuff than I know. I'm just a person who knows to go where to go to get the information.
Right. That's usually me.
and then that's what happened with that episode. Somebody shot me a picture of this cable's terminating in the back of a patch panel, and there was literally this like
goo.
It looked like mayonnaise coming out of it, right? And the guy asked me, "What is this?" And if I'm the type of person. If you ask me a question and I don't know the answer,
right,
I'm not going to make up a lie. I'm just going to say, "I don't know, but let me get the information for you." And so I reached out to the guest on that particular episode. It was I can't remember his name off the top of my head because it was 2 years ago.
Yeah, it was a while ago.
And I rebroadcast that one every once in a while.
Yeah.
And he came on, he went through the whole AOM and explained why it happens. It's because the temperature in the ceiling,
right.
And it just.
No, and it was definitely educational for me to understand that, but I'm sure a lot of people didn't know what it was and they thought it was a gag, the way it looked, right on the picture. But that's the other thing. When you're talking to so many different individuals on your podcast, right? You're also talking about codes. You're also talking about standards or other standards, right? So some people, standards are not all equal. Not all standards are equal, right?
Yeah, I guess
fair to say.
That's a big misconception in our industry because you have codes, you have standards, and you have best practices, right? And it is so important that in about a month and a half, I'm going to Nashville. Technology Worldwide is holding a thing there, and I'm going to have a whole entire presentation on that, what the difference is between those three, and why you should follow, the standards and the best practices. And if you do that, it's going to not only set you up for success, but it's going to set you apart from other technicians.
So we were talking about the guests, and you named a few people, a few name drops on where you go to as being a resource. But other than that, what do you tend to lean on as somewhat of an encyclopedia of knowledge?
I've been called that before, but I don't see that. So I am a constant learner. I am absolutely hungry for knowledge. So I listen to your podcast. I listen to cable installation maintenance webinars. I listen to other content creators. I'm watching, if I feel like I haven't touched the subject for a while, I will literally go on YouTube and say, for example, there's a video called 2-hour free fiber optic training, and I watch that video once a quarter because every time I watch it, I'm like, oh man, I forgot about that. So I'm always plugged in. I'm always trying to learn. Always trying to reinforce knowledge it's not because, well, it is because of that, but my biggest fear is somebody's going to ask me a question that I give them the wrong answer or don't have an answer.
Right.
And that's why I'm always plugged in, always trying to learn. And like I said, I'm doing that on top of, having the podcast and everything else. So you got to stay current in this industry.
Yeah, you definitely are doing a lot. You're burning that candle on both ends. As I was attending, like you this morning, the Women in BICSI breakfast, Kevlin had gave you a shout out on your study group and everything that you're doing there. That also has to be a huge boost of
Did you say that? Yeah, you're absolutely right. So I'm on my 4th RCD study group, and somebody told me I need to figure out how many people I've gotten to get their RCD because I don't track that, but I need to do that. But when people call me up and they say, "Hey Chuck, I got my RCDD," I get more joy from that than when I actually got mine, right? Because I'm like, I had one guy tell me, he's like, "Chuck, I'm taking my test tomorrow at 6 p.m. and I don't want to say who it is.
Yeah.
And he said, "I'm taking my test tomorrow at 6 p.m. I said, "You got to let me know." He goes, "Yeah, if you see me at the conference with an RCD tech," no, I'm a nervous dad. You're one of my students. You got to let me know.
Right.
You got to let me know.
Well, I saw the other day, actually, on LinkedIn, somebody had posted and you reposted.
Yeah.
And they gave you a shout out and they passed their RCDD.
Yep.
So that is, truly payment in itself, I would think.
I just got to figure out how to convert that into a form that all those platforms that want money for me to do the podcast will accept.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. Donation. We accept donations.
Right,
All major credit cards.
Right. Exactly.
So, talk to me a little bit about your position from mentor in the mentor committee and what you see and how you see it going and what you want to do there.
So as you know, we're both on the mentorship, and I've been an active mentor in that program for 2 years now, maybe 3. I've kind of lost track. And on top of that, I still mentor people outside of that program, right? And to me, the biggest thing is, as a mentor, you got to get past the mindset of, oh, young people don't want to learn. They absolutely want to learn. They're hungry for knowledge.
Right.
You just got to know how they want to consume that to get that knowledge. And so I've gotten way more out of the mentor program than my mentees have, because I get to understand them better.
Right.
And that helps me relate in the podcast and figure out where I need to be and where I need to go.
Right.
So I get way more out of it than they get out of talking to me.
I see value on both ends.
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely. And and what happens is, and my boss told me this once, when you mentor somebody like that, that's like putting gold in the bank, because you never know, that person might come back. They might be a future customer. They might be a future boss. I mean, it's paying it forward. I don't do it for that reason. I do it because I want people to succeed.
Yeah, no.
And a good leader is always training their replacement.
Right.
That's why I'm interested. I'm like, don't guard that information, as you said earlier.
Keep it close to the vest.
Don't
for no
do that.
reason.
Yeah.
It's bad.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the military, somebody falls down, the mission still has to continue.
Right.
All right. So somebody's in the field, somebody's sick, somebody's out. You don't want the job to suffer because you kept all the secret sauce to yourself. Right.
Right.
So you clearly are not doing that, and you are, leaps and bounds amongst giants. You really are. You're doing.
I appreciate that.
It's amazing to me how far along you've taken the show. Let's Talk Cabling, and how many places can you stream your show now?
So I stream to TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and I know I've been saying this for the last year. If I can figure out the whole RSS feed thing, it'll go to Instagram too. Because Instagram doesn't have a thing where you just click a button and it broadcasts it there.
I wouldn't know.
Yeah. Well, maybe you can get Danielle to kind of help me.
Yes.
Figure that out.
Yeah. No. Sure. No. Definitely. No. You definitely need a good team behind you, and we're happy to collaborate with you any chance we can, because what you're putting out there, sir, knowledge is truly power, and especially in this industry. The industry is not dying. As we said before, this is the foundation of every vertical. Think about it. You cannot conduct surgery without a good network. You can't go to school, K through 12, without a network. And especially in today's world, when we experienced what the pandemic did, there's no more snow days. Funny story, just last week in New York, we got less than an inch of snow on the ground. And the day before that, my children's principal sent out an email and said, hey, there might be snow tomorrow, so everybody's going to work remote.
Well, as we learned in the general session this morning, they're putting data centers on the moon.
I know.
On the moon.
I'm trying to figure out how we deliver there.
When they first said that, I immediately go to the dark place. I'm like, no, they're not. This is science fiction. But then when he actually explained how they're getting it, I was like, that makes absolute sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and like I said, if you're not a constant learner, you will get left behind in this industry.
I have to figure out how I'm going to get my supply trucks up to the moon now, though.
I got to figure out how Lee and I are going to run a fiber optic cable to the moon.
Single mode or?
Oh yeah, that's got to be single mode.
It's got to be single mode.
Single mode.
But no, it's amazing that we had this opportunity to collaborate here at the 2024 BICSI Winter Conference. I look forward to doing more great things with you, sir, because you're bringing to the table a lot of good stuff, a lot of good guests that come on your show. They're bringing a lot of good stuff. I look to collaborate more on panels and whatnot.
Absolutely.
Whatever you need, we're here for you. We'll definitely work and help you out.
Thank you, sir.
Because Let's Talk Cabling, it's where it's at. Be sure to check them out. And just for our guests, hit them up with all their...
The easiest way to find me,
There you go.
go to the old Google machine, type in hashtag, it's # for old people like us, CB, Chuck Bowser, RCDDD. I will be the entire front page.
Yeah.
That's how you find me.
I'm Anthony Romeo. This has been another fabulous edition of WiseUP Podcast from our folks at wisecomponents.com. We really appreciate everybody listening. Check us out.